guys, it's Charge Hand represent Zoom the TBT, and we got a treat for you guys. The gentleman from Eberlein Drive talking about their matching against the winner of Brotherly Love and the Stillwater Stars. And you're looking at this pod real quick, and it's a very competitive one. Eberlein, a talented team, a fixture, and that's a tough opening round matchup, Brotherly Love and Stillwater Stars. So that could be a very competitive second round game. Charge, what are you seeing here?
Yeah, no, this is an absolutely brutal pod that Eberlein's been placed in. I think TBT did a really nice job getting some intriguing matchups here that are going to be great for the fans, but this is going to be a slugfest throughout. Obviously, Eberlein's made the finals recently, Final 8 recently. Brotherly Love went to the Final 8 last year, and Stillwater Stars boast a couple NBA guys on their team. So, whoever comes out of here is going to be battle-tested, and looking across, obviously Golden Eagles not only one of the favorites to move along, but a lot of folks think possibly win the TBT. So looking forward to seeing these matchups. It's going to be great from a fan perspective to see how this shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, this 4 or 5 potential national quarterfinal game might be quite amazing. But we have to get there first. So let's talk about how we get there with our guest, star guard Josh Magette. Josh, what's up?
How's it going?
And then Matt Mitchell. Josh, I mispronounced your name again. It's like a third take. Let's just go ahead and go keep on. Magette, right?
Magette, yep, you're
okay,
good.
So I clearly can't pronounce anything. It's the place I'm from. We'll get to it in a minute. We got GM Matt Mitchell here. Matt, what's going on?
Doing well, guys. How are you?
Doing fine. And head coach Cody Toppert. Cody, what's going on?
Oh, just happy to be here.
Excellent, excellent. And let's go ahead and sort of go back to the screen share. You can see all of your beautiful faces. And Charge, so, you get to the honor of the first question today. What are you thinking?
Yeah, let's start with you, Matt. Just kind of lay a little bit of the groundwork for what Eberlein Drive is. Congratulations. This is the 7th season of TBT and your 7th appearance. So, tell us a little bit about the origins of Eberlein and how you've been able to, really sustain this and get this franchise going 7 straight years.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having us on. And as you know, Eberlein Drive has been in this tournament since the very beginning. And we're excited to have another chance here this year. But the background of Eberlein is really all starts from Jake Hirschman, who's a friend of mine. He grew up on a street, a cul-de-sac outside of Detroit, Michigan, called Eberlein Drive. And so the very first TBT, he played in it with his buddies. They got smoked. There was an article in Sports Illustrated about the worst team in TBT, but it kind of put them on the map a little bit. I, on the other hand, played in TBT the first year with some of my former college teammates. And after that first TBT was over, I realized as much fun as I had playing in it, I was never going to win it. And I saw this as an opportunity to maybe win some money someday. And so I figured I would, turn over the playing days and try to assemble a team. And so I was getting ready to do that on my own when Jake reached out to me and said, would you want to be the GM of our team? We'll work together to get fans, because at the time getting fans was how we got into the tournament. So that was year 2, was my first time with Eberlein, but I've been with him ever since, and we're looking forward to continued growth and some success this year as well.
Now, Matt, real quick, I want to slip in here and ask, you said you played in the first one and you can't play now, but let's be honest here. Can you get in there if you need to? Can they use you as an injury replacement?
If I set up in the corner and had Josh give me the ball, I could probably knock down a couple of shots. That's about it.
Hey, one more question for you, Matt, before we jump over to Josh and Cody. But obviously, first 3 years, Eberlein has kind of went 0-1. You actually had a fundraise to get into the TBT for 1 year. And then a couple years later, I mean, you're this powerhouse team that a lot of professional athletes, some of the best players around the world, want to be part of. So how challenging was it this year, kind of rebuilding a little bit from losing Randall, who's been a fixture and just a TBT legend the past couple of years, and kind of starting fresh a little bit?
Reloading.
There you go. Yeah, no, we obviously were pretty focused on Jerome Randall the last 2 years. The team was really built around him, and we did exceptionally well with him running the show. Unfortunately, he had a injury towards ACL this year, and so we had some guys getting older, and we were already thinking about maybe reloading, to your point. But that was really the point at which we realized this is going to, kind of flip things up and bring some new faces in. And so while I guess, we're looked at as maybe less experienced in TBT at least, top to bottom, no doubt about it, I have a better team. We have a better team talent-wise. I'm super excited to get out there and show that, because I think there's some doubters out there that don't think we have the TBT experience. But I'm confident, with the guys we have, the kind of guys we have, and then with Cody running the show, we'll be in good hands.
Yeah, speaking of Cody running the show, I want to loop in him actually. Always a pleasure to get another Memphis guy in here. So it's a little bit of a West Tennessee vibe. Our last couple of shows, we just had Jackson on, now actually having the proper city of West Tennessee in. So welcome to the TBT community, Cody. It's great to have you on, Coach Toppert. You'll be the second prominent Memphis Tiger to coach in TBT because legendary number 5 Antonio Anderson was the coach of Memphis State in 2018 in Richmond. Were you able to ask him about that experience when he came in to interview for the Mike Miller position?
Well, we're doing this stuff right here, so we're playing it safe. So, I didn't get a chance to converse with him, but obviously great guy, Memphis legend, tremendous player, and I know he's working his way up the coaching ranks. So he's gonna be a great coach here in the near future.
Yeah, he definitely he's won, I think, 2 out of 3 state titles at Lynn up in New Hampshire. So he's definitely well going. So he'd be a great add to the staff. So I'm definitely hoping he can join you, have that really great backcourt of coaches with you and him. A couple of really great defensive minded shooting guards to help out the coaching staff with Penny. What led you to want to coach in TBT? It's a fairly unique opportunity, but you've played professionally at the higher levels. You've coached in the NBA, the G League. You now coach at Memphis. Like, what does this opportunity present to you?
I mean, it's a couple things. Number one is it's an opportunity to coach guys like Josh. So the roster, I'm familiar with every player on the roster. I have a relationship with every player on the roster. So I think, having gone against Josh for so long, it's going to be nice to finally have him on my side. He used to drive me nuts as a coach. So there's just an intimate relationship with those guys. And on top of that, just loving the game and coaching in and of itself, right? Just like for players, right, it's getting reps, get the opportunity to get coaching reps. And, we've been cooped up in the house for so long. It'll be good to get out there and kind of exercise, that coaching muscle and have a good time while doing it.
At least you guys are all in houses. I'm in an apartment in Brooklyn, so cooped up means a lot less to me. I don't even have a yard. But no, I got to ask you you talk about being cooped up and recruiting. Just a real quick college thing, because Charge and I approach from different angles. He's more of a G League guy. I approach as more of a college fan. The Memphis team's actually what got me interested in this, the alumni teams they've had in the past. It's currently a recruiting period. You can't discuss current players. I know that would be a huge violation, but I will ask you, are you able to recruit in times in COVID? Like, how is this affecting your day job?
I mean, quite honestly, the biggest thing that it affects is the evaluation element, right? So the evaluation period obviously has gone away here in the summer. And so that hurts some kids who have been working all winter, had great high school seasons, kids that were going to get their name, onto the radar of, a Memphis, so to speak. But from the other standpoint, right, the kids who are already in the middle of recruiting, who, we've identified priority guys, it's just about building strong relationships with them. Obviously, when we go to these events, oddly enough, you can't converse with the players anyways. So you're showing face, you're watching, showing love, things like that. But at the end of the day, it's mainly a virtual element, regardless, whether we're Zooming, FaceTiming, calling, texting, things of that nature. So, we're doing our best to build deep relationships with the guys who we're looking to bring in that will hopefully have the opportunity to not just come to Memphis and win basketball games and have a tremendous experience, but ultimately get to the level of Josh or some of the guys playing in this tournament.
Yeah, so that's a good segue into Josh. So first off, congratulations. The All G League teams were just announced a couple of days ago when you made the second team All G League. So congratulations.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and just phenomenal results last year. 21 points per game, 10.6 assists per game, 4.1 rebounds per game, 2 steals per game. And one of the, I think the things that people don't understand about your game is you're a heck of a shooter, 43% from 3 last year and 3.4s per make. So such a great facilitator, but can shoot it also. So tell me a little bit about Matt's recruiting pitch. You played G League, NBA, overseas, but this is going to be your first kind of run into TBT. So why is this the right time to get involved with TBT and play for Matt?
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of the tournament itself and the concept, and I watch it every summer when it's on TV, but in the past I had always, or at least the past 2 summers, I have had summer league obligations. So I haven't had the chance to, or schedules have conflicted and I haven't been able to play. But obviously I'm a little older now and no summer league going on. So it's just made the most sense for this summer to be the year that I jumped into it. And I talked with Matt, and then once I knew Cody was on board after playing against him for several years in the G League, it just made the most sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, too, because the schedule might work out in a completely different way. We were talking this before we went live. But this this will starts July 4th, and it hopefully ends July 14th with you guys winning $1 million. That's the goal here,
great.
obviously. Augment that pay you guys all get through your day jobs. But the NBA season opens up at the end of July. And look at your parent team, the Orlando Magic, that's your G League affiliate team. The rotation of the point guard is Fultz, DJ Augustine, Michael Carter-Williams. Like, that's a pretty solid rotation. But I personally think for the run, they could use a fourth guard. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I need to put you in touch with them. That'd be a good idea in my mind.
Yeah, I think going small when you're going to be playing in a tight environment, going 3 guards, playing a distributor to get those shooters open. I think it's definitely something. I think it's definitely something we should definitely consider.
Yeah, you want to push the pace as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go back to a little bit of the slides. And I want to go ahead and get into this team a little bit deeper. And all of our stats, I was here by my partner, Charge. He does a really great job with this. And you can see this roster. The green means NBA talent, the guys who have played in the league. And you see 5 guys, including Josh. Charge, I mean, this is just a really loaded roster.
Yeah, no, this roster is just really deep, and we'll go into a little bit more of the players as we go on and have Matt talk a little bit about some of the construction of how it took place. But it definitely looks like there's a similar style, similar brand of player that Matt had his eye on. And before we get there, one of the unique things this year is that the window to prepare your team for TBT 2020 is really short. So I'd like to hear from both Josh and Cody. We'll start with you, Josh. You had a similar experience playing for Team USA, so once again, just another big accolade for you this past year, and you've got a collection of guys that came together, short amount of time to prepare, and were very successful. The same thing's going to happen in TBT. I think you're going to get maybe 4 or 5 days to work with your team. So what are your takeaways from your experience with Team USA, and as you get this team together, obviously you're one of the veterans on the team. How can you pull these guys together and get them cohesive in a short amount of time?
Yeah, first of all, the USA experience was, second to none. That was to be able to represent our country was really, really special. But then as long as moving on to like getting ready for this, I think the fact that we have, some experienced guys, I think we have 1 rookie and then everyone else has, played and been around professional basketball. So we won't have to introduce like new terminology or anything like that. We'll be able to kind of hit the ground running, and we have guys who know what they're doing and high IQ guys, and and Cody having a relationship with everyone will go a long way of him being able to, get across what he wants done and wants us to try to do on the court.
Yeah, and same question to you, Cody. Obviously, best laid plans. You guys would have been able to have a training camp and really prepare for it. But 4 or 5 days, obviously you're a student of the game and some familiarity. But what challenges do you see, and will these guys be ready to play in a short 4 or 5 day window?
Yeah, there's no question these guys will be ready to play. I mean, obviously they're all professionals in their own right as it stands. And like Josh said, we've got high IQ guys. The thing about this roster that I love is really the makeup in terms of everybody brings something different to the table. And when I look at a roster, it's a jigsaw puzzle in and of itself, right? We don't need 10 guys coming out here just trying to chase buckets, because that's not what the purpose is. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the guys who have had success in the G League understand what it takes in order to be successful there. The running joke in the G League is, what does everybody have in common, right? Everybody wants out, right? Because it's like prison, right? So, being able to survive and not just survive, but thrive in that environment, you have to understand what it takes to be a part of a team. I think everybody on this roster will understand that. And there will be a familiarity with the system that we're going to be putting in place. And I'm really just looking forward to a first team meeting with the guys, getting out on the court and watching them gel quickly, which I know they will.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And Josh, looking at this roster, I mean, you led the G League in assists. You're obviously a guy who likes to kick the rock around, but you got a lot of mouths to feed. I mean, are people going to be bribing you to pass them the rock? Like, how's it going to work feeding all these hungry mouths of shooters? Like, how are you going to decide which open guy gets the buckets?
Yeah, that's going to be a good problem to have. I think I get kind of excited just looking at our roster, and I'm excited to get out there and just get our training camp going, because we do have so many guys who can do different things and score the ball in different ways. It's going to be fun. It's going to make it easy on me for sure.
Yeah, so Matt, let's pull you back in a little bit on here because, like Hayner mentioned, I'm a G League guy. Follow, the Charge and G League in whole, and this is pretty exciting for me, and it had to be exciting for you. I mean, you got some of the top G Leaguers in the business this year. So you got Dusty, you've got Josh, obviously, you got JP on the same team. These guys were, amongst the league's leader in scoring, 3 points, 3-point percentage, steals. I mean, just some real well-balanced guys can do a little bit of everything. So tell me about how you obviously we know how Josh reached out to you, but how excited are you to have this collection of talent with you this year?
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled. I think, just to piggyback on Josh's explanation, I had reached out to Josh early on, and I think there was a little bit of intrigue, but it was pretty early. We didn't even know what was going to happen with the return of the NBA or the G League or Summer League. And so we kind of kept in touch. Same with like JP McCura, several others on the list, but we hadn't really committed to anything for many of the guys because I really didn't know what my roster was going to look like, if we were going to go full rebuild or if we were just going to try to replace a few pieces. And when I finally solidified things with Cody and bringing him on as coach, and within 10 minutes of kind of pitching him on the idea, he was all in. And so I was thrilled about that because I knew obviously his reputation, it precedes himself and the relationships he has with players. And so, quickly I had mentioned some of the guys I was talking to, one of them being Josh. He's like, get him on the phone right now. Let's lock him in. And so, that was a guy that was really important to us to start with. And from there, just, leveraging some guys I knew, some guys, Cody obviously knows all these guys and has coached many of them, and just began to put this roster together and try to find pieces that fit well together. It's not about just having the biggest names. I think early on in TBT in my recruiting, I thought, in order to get into the tournament, because it was very much about having a marketable team. And so, we had guys like Jamal Tinsley on the roster who had not played for 2 years, which sounded great. And it got people interested in our roster, but it wasn't necessarily what it takes to win this tournament. And so we've been pretty deliberate about the kind of guys we're bringing on. All these guys obviously have experience and understand Cody's system and how he wants to play as well. So I think we got a great fit. To Josh's point, there's a lot of different weapons, and I'm looking forward to getting out there.
Yeah, something pretty unique to Eberlein this year. You actually got 2 guys who played for Team USA. I don't know if any other teams can boast 2 guys playing for Team USA. So, Josh, I know you were a teammate of JP's this summer as well with Team USA. So what is it about JP's game that you're excited? I don't know if you've ever played with him in any other leagues around there, but I'm sure not recently. So what's exciting about JP that he's going to bring to Eberlein?
Yeah, I'm glad he's on our team because I know I hate playing against him. I think he's one of those guys that, has a knack for getting under other teams' players' skin. But he's a good player. Great cutter, great 3-point shooter, can do a little bit of everything. Really, really good wing defender. I really, really enjoyed being around him for Team USA. We were kind of talking throughout the summer, and that was a big reason that we kind of agreed to come on board here.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the common themes when people talk about JP is they definitely like playing with him much more than they like playing against him. So, I can't wait to see. I've always been a fan of Eberlein, and if you guys watched the show, any team that has a Charge player is 25% more likely to win their matchup versus the next
yada,
game. So,
yada.
So you guys got to hey, at least I didn't go all Memphis today. Come on. But I got to do my Canton Charge plug. But you guys do have that advantage going for you, and I hope you guys maximize that value.
25% more likely.
That's right. Exactly.
Talk a lot about system, Cody, and obviously the chef's only as good as his ingredients. We've talked about the fact you've got some really great parts to play with, a lot of talent, a lot of flexibility, a lot of disparate backgrounds though on the experience size, large, small schools, different pro backgrounds, but you do have a lot of NBA experience by TBT standards. So, how do you see weaving these disparate parts together? When you were talking about making this roster, how do you see them gelling together system-wise?
Well, first, I'd like to point out that when you play in Canton, they're 25% less likely to sweep the floor before the game.
So, that's possible. Hey, but our floor fell apart one year. We had to cancel a game because the floor was coming apart, and we put you up in the McKinley Grand. I hear they truly do have one of the worst facilities in the G League. I'd hate to say that, but
that's neither here nor there. But no, we can go down the list here, right? So Tim Quarterman, I coached him with the Houston Rockets Summer League. So I've got experience with him. We jumped around here. So take it back to that previous slide.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, Tim's familiar with the system that we're going to be running from his time, playing with me there. Jerron Johnson actually played for me when I was an assistant coach with the RGV Vipers, the Houston Rockets G League team. We happened to knock Magette here out of the playoffs one year. So my friend. Dusty Hannas was a guy here who I tried to trade for when I was coaching in the G League, but he's also here in Memphis. So, he played in Taylor Jenkins's system with the Memphis Hustle, very similar to the one that we're going to be playing. Emmett Williams, actually last summer, I had the opportunity to work with Emmett a little bit out in Miami. And so got familiar with his game and obviously understand, what he's about. And I just kind of like what he brings, even though he's a rookie coming right out of college. I had Johnny O'Brien for pre-draft way back in the day before I even got into coaching. So I have a deep-rooted relationship with him. Obviously, a guy with NBA experience, in Milwaukee, but he's also one of the best centers over in the Russian league. And just knowing him well and knowing his game, it fits perfectly with what we're doing. Josh played in similar systems in the past. Obviously, one of the highest IQs I've ever seen, on the floor. And just the way that he gets everybody else involved, right? People always say, well, Steve Nash made the D'Antoni system work. What if the D'Antoni system helped Steve Nash and it was just that perfect marriage? And the way I see Josh is very similar to that type of a role. Kaiser Gates is a Swiss Army knife, another guy who I've had the opportunity to work out. Know him well. He can knock down threes from the outside. He can slide the small ball 5. So we're looking at a lot of versatility there. Also understands and knows the system. He played for Darren Ehrman this year with the Maine Red Claws, who is a good friend of mine. JP McCura, actually, funny story on that is when I was running our pre-draft workouts for Phoenix before the draft, when he was coming out, he actually tweaked his ankle. So I had to sub in for him. And I don't know if it was just like, we're going to go sub, white guy for white guy or whatever, but I had to sub in and finish that pre-draft workout, Josh. I thought they were going to draft me. It didn't work out, but but no, I mean, JP's a guy who, I'm very familiar with his game. You talk about getting under people's skin. Him and Josh will do a great job of that. And Davion Berry, I also had for pre-draft when he was coming out of Weber State, a guy who's been able to carve out a career in the G League and then overseas. So, again, to me, when I look at a roster, and Matt feels the same way, it's a jigsaw puzzle, right? We don't need everybody coming out here to chase buckets. And when you look at this roster, while we do have talented players, they're guys who understand how to fit into a system. That's why JP McCura is on Team USA. That's why Josh Magette has been in the NBA. And that's not a coincidence. And so for me, this is going to be just a really awesome opportunity to get around them, to learn from them. And, I'm not even, I'm going to be spending most of my time sitting down. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's funny too. Every time I see that Weber State thing, I always think of Harold the Show Arsenault, if you remember that name, back in the late 90s. Does that ring a bell?
I'm very familiar with Arsenault, absolutely.
Yeah, so jumping over to the slide, Davion Berry, I love his game. I think he's probably one of the more underrated guys on this roster, where a lot of, casual fans won't know his name, but obviously you want to get in the right spot, the right role, just very successful. I'm excited that you guys picked him up late. So Matt, I want to go back to you. We talked a little bit about this earlier, and obviously Seth Greenberg has said this numerous times. New teams, young teams have no chance to win into TBT, but when I look at this roster, and Cody kind of walked you through every player and the hows and the whys they ended up here. A pretty compelling argument, a lot of versatile players. So what's your argument back when someone say a new team and a young team can't win this thing?
Well, I think the young team comment is you look at like a Big X team or, guys that are mostly all rookies or first or second year guys. So while I guess we're younger than our last year, we had several guys in their early 30s. This team is definitely younger. These are not, rookies. These guys have played professional basketball in the NBA, in EuroLeague. So experience will not be an issue there. I think the biggest inexperience will come from just understanding TBT in and of itself. So I think that's where most of Seth's comments come from. And I think there's some validity in that. I think it's hard to know what to expect until you experience it firsthand. I know Dusty's been in it a little bit, so he has some experience. Jerron Johnson's played a little bit. So I think we'll do our best to communicate, what to expect. But at the end of the day, again, preparation is going to be huge. And I think having the forced 4 or 5 days of quarantine kind of lockdown, we're going to have some on-court time, but also plenty of time, in meeting rooms and watching film and watching video and talking, building some of that chemistry should hopefully help there as well. But, these guys are pros, and Cody's more than prepared than anybody else. I know that's going to be in this tournament. So I feel like we're in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, you guys definitely have a good spot, a lot of maximal experience, and it's definitely a lot of things going on. But Cody, I mean, I'm a dumb guy. I'll admit that I'm probably the dumbest guy on this call by a lot, but I can't read numbers, and I see the talent. I see the stats. I know the talent of this team. I know how good they are. Also, in a slide, they're a smaller team. You've got no one who's really above 6'6" on this roster besides O'Brien. So how are you going to scheme around a lack of size? Now, being a Memphis fan, I know you ended up playing guys like LQ at the 4, who's like 6'4" a lot this season. So I know you're used to having a smaller team. How are you going to leverage all of this shooting and passing and skill talent while masking a size deficit?
To me, the big thing about size in today's game, right, is the defensive glass. But when you really look at the numbers, the interesting thing about defensive rebounding percentage is that the teams that have the biggest guys aren't even necessarily the best defensive rebounding teams, right? So when we look at our roster in terms of like the size deficit, we're looking at it also from the standpoint of our defensive and offensive mission statements. And we're going to be a shot spectrum oriented team. We're going to assault the rim. We're going to spray out for threes. We're going to attack closeouts, and we're going to get to the free throw line. And the defensive side of the ball, we want versatility, switching 1 through 4. And we want to keep our big back in the pick and roll. We're going to try to force 1 or fewer contested non-paint twos per possession. And I'm highly confident that we have the roster to do that. If we can stay out of rotations, right, then we're going to not have to spend as much time trying to challenge things at the rim. And with our pick and roll coverage, we're probably going to look to play 2v2 there or switch everything. So what's going to end up happening, hopefully, is we'll be able to stay home on our own guys for rebounding matchups. So to me, that's the big thing. On the flip side, too, we're going to be wanting to push the ball. We're going to look to push and play fast. And I think that's why I love this roster. And again, we've got a cerebral group here, high IQ guys. They're going to understand the rotations, and they're going to understand how to get to where they need to get to and get the job done.
Yeah, we talked about this. Oh, go ahead.
I was adding one more thing there. I think you look at TBT and the people that have had experience or success in the tournament. Obviously, Overseas Elite comes to mind. You look at their roster, size-wise. I mean, on paper, they're not any taller. They have, this year they have a 7-footer, I suppose, but I don't expect him to be dominating the game like their guards will. So whether it's them or Marquette or even Ohio State last year, I mean, you got a guy in Jeff Gibbs that's 6'2" that was playing center. So.
Jeff Gibbs is every YMCA player's favorite player, I swear. He's like 6'2", and he dominates inside. He's like a legend.
Jeff Gibbs, Ulm, Germany, man. I used to play against him over in Germany. He was dominating this thing. Hey, the minute I walked out there, when we played the game down in Ulm, and this dude is like goes to jump center. I'm like, what? I was looking down at this guy. It made no sense. His arms were so long, though.
Right.
And anyways, I'll also piggyback this on, to be honest with you, the post play type to score, one of the worst play types pretty much across basketball, from high school on up these days. So, I think I'll take my chances with Josh battling it out, fighting to front. If they're trying to post us up, I think that'll be to our advantage.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these guys, I mean, even though smaller, especially looking at their stats in the G League, they're still pulling down 4 or 5 rebounds a game in a lot of cases. And these guys are scrappy, which is I really like the brand of basketball that you guys are looking to bring. So Josh, obviously looking at you to spearhead this. So from a fan standpoint, if they were to tune in and watch a game, kind of put it, similar to what Cody had, if a fan tunes in layman's terms, what can they expect from Eberlein this year?
I think first and foremost, we're going to play fast. A lot of quick, not quick, but a lot of shots in transition, pushing the pace as much as we can. Y'all mentioned how we might not have as much size as other teams, so we're going to try to counter that with as much speed and pace as we can, and getting the ball up the court and a lot of threes and a lot of drives to the rim.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and you're going to need that too, because you guys have a very interesting thing going on because you don't know your opponent yet. And we were discussing this a lot of whether or not – well, first of all, I'm going to ask you guys, and I guess this is a question probably mostly for Josh, loop him back in. Not knowing your opponent yet, is it more of an advantage in a short series sort of thing where you're playing one and go home? Is it better to have the day or rest, or is it better to actually be warm and have played and gotten the punch in the face first? What do you think? Who has more of an advantage, the rested team or the warm team?
That's a good question. Obviously, winning 4 games for the money is better than having to win 5 games. But, if you can get through that first game, I think it's probably to their advantage to be able to get in there and, get used to each other and how you like to play and where guys like the ball and stuff like that. So if you can guarantee yourself to win that first game, then I think the advantage might go to the lower seeded team there.
All right, yeah, let's hit to the opponent. And Cody, obviously, I'm not sure if you had a chance to dig into these rosters a little bit. So potential opponents, Team Brotherly Love or Stillwater Stars. And Brotherly Love is just a very veteran, experienced team. These guys have been playing together for a lot of years now, a lot of TBT experience now. So what are some of the things that jump off the page for you when you think about a team for like Brotherly Love?
Well, lucky for us, they've been live streaming their practices on Instagram. So fortunate for us. Good. I mean, obviously these are an experienced group of guys. Like I think the thing that jumps out is that they play together and they play together regularly. And so, I think that's probably when you look at the biggest thing that's in their favor, it's going to be that, and I know they're scrappy. We know what Philly is all about. And so, Temple is in the American Conference right here. So, we got a little rivalry going, but I think it'll be, it'll be fun to just get on the court against whichever opponent it is. If it's Brotherly Love, we have been tuning in to these Instagram sessions, so we'll do our best to be prepared, and we'll do our best to have our guys prepared.
And Matt, this is Cody and Josh's first TBT run, but you're an OG at this. You've been in this forever. You've seen Brotherly Love. You've been in the same tournament with them before. Like, what kind of challenges does a physical Philly team present in a matchup?
I think that's just I think honestly the experience and then just the way they play, to your point. They're tenacious, they're scrappy, they do the little things. They're not about trying to fill stats and have one guy that's dominating for them. You look at their numbers there. I mean, they have 3 or 4 guys in double figures. And so I think just having the experience and having gone through before is something that benefits them. But at the end of the day, I think we're more concerned about what we're doing, how we implement our system, than what our opponents are going to bring. So while we want to be prepared, and it's good to have some background who we're playing, I think, we're more concerned about just taking care of business for those 4 days we have together to prepare for whoever the opponent ends up being.
Speaking of whoever the opponent ends up being, you do have another option, obviously.
Yeah, the number 21 seed Stillwater Stars. Me and Hayner had this team ranked a little bit higher, probably more in the 16-17 range before the TBT selection committee played it out. So, like I said, this is a brutal kind of half of the bracket. They boast a couple NBAers in Markel Brown and Tyshawn Taylor. And so Josh, I don't know if you've had a chance to peek at this roster yet, but what's your first thoughts when you see this one?
Yeah, really talented roster, and obviously they'll have a little bit of an advantage having played, most of the guys at Oklahoma State. But, my mindset is with only 24 teams, like everybody's going to be really good. And kind of touching on Matt's point, that's why I think the key for us is just, making the most out of our training camp and trying to be the best we can be, because, once we find out who we're playing, we'll dig into some personnel probably, but, we got to take care of ourselves and make sure we're ready to go, because every team is going to be really, really talented and really good.
Yeah, and Cody, I mean, you have an interesting contrast in styles here, because you have a lot of guys from different schools, a lot of different experience levels. They have an alumni team, but you also have a shared experience knowing all the guys. So can you talk about the role cohesion has in a tournament like this? Because they obviously are used to playing the same sets from the same background, but you have the shared experience of the same pro league experience. Can you weigh the differences in the levels of cohesion, how it could be a factor in this kind of matchup?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I just kind of equate it to this, right? I don't remember the play calls from college. I don't know, Josh, you remember your play calls?
Yeah, I do.
You do? You would.
Yeah.
You would.
You're smarter.
I'm older. But my point being, like, to be honest with you, side out of bounds 2, baseline out of bounds 1, you know what I mean? Like, we've all played on 1,000 different teams since then. So it's not like we're coming right out of college here, running the same system, right? I have to still remind our Memphis guys, some of our play calls. midway through the season, end of the season, things of that nature. So, to me, we're going to dig in on ourselves. And the thing that we have in common is not just a bond, but all of these guys have played the style of play that we're going to be playing, and the terminology will be very similar. And they've done it for multiple seasons. So I think that is what we're looking at from our point of view. And from their point of view, I mean, unless they've been running the same flex, from Oklahoma State to now, right, then who really knows what's going on over there? Because I could hit my buddies up from Cornell. In fact, my college roommate's texting me right now, and, we get on the same floor, and we might not know which way is up, but he was in my wedding. So, I don't know. We're just going to go out there. As long as they make the baskets 10 feet and the balls are round, we'll figure out this Elam ending, and we'll put our best product forward.
Yeah, no, just a quick follow on that, Cody. So obviously Elam ending, kind of new to you. So hit the NBA All-Star game this year. So any first impressions of Elam? And obviously I'm not going to ask you for your strategy, but what are your thoughts on the Elam ending in whole?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, right, you play well enough that it doesn't become a massive factor, right? I think that's the first thing. Secondly, after that is, we're going to have our guys prepared and understand our philosophy when it gets there, right? We're going to have different score differentials prepared and kind of have an understanding of, keeping an assault the rim mentality during certain situations regarding that. But, we've been studying it, so we'll do our best to have our guys prepared, and I'm confident that they'll be ready to execute.
All right, perfect. Hey, we're going to start to head towards close. So I'll start with you, Matt. Really looking forward to seeing the team. Kind of a bummer, the whole COVID situation. No fans this year. I've had the pleasure sitting and watching some games with Matt last year in Chicago. Saw you guys in Baltimore. So, always enjoy watching some of that Eberlein basketball. So, unfortunately, this year we'll be watching and rooting for you on television. But, long journey from the cul-de-sac to the stickmen to one of the dominant teams in the TBT. So, parting thoughts, does this team have what it takes to win $1 million?
Absolutely, no question about it. And I'm not just saying that because it's the right thing to say. I think it's, you look at our team, how it's been assembled. You look at the other teams in the tournament, the matchups. I think we have versatility. We have guys that can play in multiple positions. We can, I think we have a variety of different ways that we can beat the opponent. And so I feel very good about the roster. I feel even better knowing that Cody's going to be there to kind of be prepared and have the guys ready to go. No disrespect to previous coaching. I think we've had some great coaches. David Nurse is a great friend of mine. But I will, without a doubt, say that we have the best coach in TBT, and that's not just to pump Cody up a little bit. I think, you can look at anybody out there that's going to look at this field. I know they've been rating, top point guards, which Josh was somehow not number one in that list. You had top centers, Johnny O'Brien's he's 4. I'm not sure how he's not number one. But if they do a coaching list, and this is all unbiased aside, I don't see any scenario in that Cody's not number one. And so, you look at the roster we have, the coaching we have, my experience, hopefully I can communicate some of those things. I can't obviously, give them playing experience that they have from TBT, but I think you put all those things together, and I feel really good about our chances.
Yeah, so you mentioned Josh wasn't called out for the top point guard, and they just released a few minutes before this call the top three-point shooters, and unfortunately, Josh, they snubbed you again. So I guess for closing comments, does that kind of thing bother you, fuel you? And then your final thoughts on the TBT, what are you most excited about?
Nah. I mean, I'm used to being overlooked. It's all part of it. But yeah, no, I'm just excited. Obviously, it being my first time, I'm just excited to play in it. We're have a great group of guys, a lot of winners in the group. We're going to go out there. I think we have a good chance of winning some games and giving ourselves a chance to win some money.
Yeah, and I guess to close all of this, we'd like to bring in Coach Toppert again. Obviously, we had to bring Penny in to watch over the last bit of the interview, the little bobblehead. So answer the question. First of all, will this hurt your day job?
No chance. No chance.
And what are you looking most forward to in your first TBT run as a coach?
I mean, again, it's going to be from the minute we get to have our first team meeting face to face, just being back around these guys that I've known, competed against, have relationships with. I think that's the biggest thing to me. We have a talented group. I'm blessed to have Coach Hardaway obviously in our corner because, he's pushing this and he really thinks it's going to be a great opportunity, for me to get out. And obviously, we're going to continue to pump what we're doing here at the University of Memphis and everything that he's building. But, to me, once we get on the floor, it's just going to be basketball. And anytime you get the opportunity to coach it, whether it's an empty gym, a packed gym, I've fallen in love with the game since I was little, and I'm just looking forward to watching Jet do his stuff here.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see you guys play. I think all the 901 definitely has a favorite team now. Josh, Matt, Cody, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Eberlein Drive, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.